Hi, good evening, everyone, and very warm welcome. So, thank you so much for coming here tonight or listening to this webinar and spending this time with us. My name is Magali. I am a medical herbalist and I'm also a trauma release therapist. I run the Seed Wellness team in Berkhamsted and Amersham. So, for those who are new to us, Seed Wellness is a collaborative of therapists. And we are based in different areas. We are in Buckinghamshire, Hertfordshire, Berkshire. I think we're also coming in London, so we are growing literally as we speak. Everything we do is focused on giving you, our local community, a deeper understanding of your own health and making sure you know about all the options available on your health journey. So we're here to support you as best as we can through our dedicated and caring network. So you can think of us as a local toolkit, your support network rooted right here in the community. And tonight we are here to talk about that very toolkit because we are basically going through this kind of most wonderful time, but also most challenging time, which is Christmas. So let's be honest. We are sold a picture of perfect joy, of effortless connection, and endless cheer. But for many of us, the reality feels different. Christmas is not just a joyful season, it can be a storm as well, a storm of pressure. And many of this pressure can conflict with our most basic human needs, which is calm right now at this time of year. We're in winter and we just want to rest and we want a bit more of predictability and authenticity. So before we go into this webinar and give you a little bit of a toolkit with our beautiful team that is currently here, I'm going to try to break down the storm story into 4 parts so you can kind of understand a little bit more of the kind of root causes behind the reason why you find this challenging. So firstly, we've got the biological and the emotional. So suddenly our routine vanish and we're surrounded by rich sugary foods. And for some of us, a bit of alcohol. So that can affect our guts, which is our second brain. That also affects our nervous system, which gets jittery from all the sugar craving and the sugar spikes, and then sluggish from the sugar crash. And we indulge because it's Christmas, of course. And then we often find guilt and shame creeping in afterwards, which is a physical and emotional roller coaster around this time of year. Then the second part is the sensory and the social. So the world is getting louder, brighter with all the Christmas lights, the shop getting really busy, the music, the lights flashing at us. And socially, we face the pressure of forced joy, the demand to be visibly, constantly happy. When we don't always feel that way, do we? So it's really difficult for some of us, and it almost feels like we're failing already at Christmas itself. And then the third part is the relational and the old wound. So for some of us, this can be the time where actually Christmas is a memory of either trauma, and actually for some of us, I also wanted to name that tonight, we might not have any family to spend Christmas with, and Christmas can become an exacerbation of loneliness. We might also see complex family dynamics coming to the table, old roles and patterns resurfacing, past hurts, and that can feel really raw around this time. The stress of hosting, the stress of traveling, the stress of trying to make everything perfect, and that becomes immense. Oh, and we mustn't forget the post-Christmas drop, where suddenly everybody is leaving and we're left with the silence and the separation of the loved one. And that's another emotional crash. Okay, final part, and I promise you we will have a beautiful Christmas. I'm just laying here the different pictures that we might see, is a neurological. So the festive Christmas can be really acute for neurodivergent people. And actually, many of us are neurodiverse without even knowing it. So the unpredictable schedule, the sensory assault of the lights and the noise, And the open-ended social demands can really, really be more than just stressful. It's actually a recipe for overwhelm and burnout. So let's be clear. If you're feeling drained, anxious, irritable, or overwhelmed right now by the thoughts of those next few weeks coming up, you are not the Grinch. You are a human being responding in a very normal way to a hugely demanding set of circumstances. So your system is just signaling to you that you are under pressure. And tonight, we are here to support you through that. And we're not just going to tell you to be positive and to force yourself through it. Instead, we're going to acknowledge the reality of the storm, and we're going to try to give you as many compassionate tools. So there we go. We are going to go into the little introduction of our team. We've got about 5 of us today between the Berkhamsted and the Amersham team. And I would love to hand the mic over to Nicola. And we'll just go into our names and what the modality that we are offering and where we're based. Nicola, over to you.
Thanks, Magali. Hi, everybody. My name is Nicola. I call myself a life mentor, grief tender, and soul activist. But basically, my work is steeped in grief, whether that's bereavement, estrangement from a loved one, betrayal, any kind of scope of grief. That's what I work with. I also volunteer at my local hospice, so I help and support people through cancer diagnosis and end of life. So that's me.
Thank you, Nicola. And you also are based in Berkhamsted, right? And you
I
practice in
am.
King's.
Thank you, Magali. I forgot that bit.
Okay, it's just so people know where to find you when it's here.
Yeah, back up in Kings Langley.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nicola. Sarah, over to you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Reitman. I am a neurodiversity ADHD coach and education specialist. I mainly focus on the development of executive skills, so that's our focusing, our emotional regulation, our planning. But I work with children as young as 3 and 4, unbelievably, all the way through to parents and adults in the workplace and outside of the workplace to support with the challenges of ADHD so that life can be less stressful and less distressing, and more importantly, developing the executive skills. But I also work very, very closely with education. So where it's coming up within schools or within revision, because my background is in teaching, then I work very closely, particularly at the moment around GCSEs and exam prep, etc. But I also work holistically as a family and how the ADHD and neurodiversity is impacting the family, so I can support the family, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's with hospital meetings, whether that's with school meetings. So it's quite diverse. I work across and collaboratively.
Thank you, Sarah. And you're based between Amersham and Beaconsfield. And I think you also do see people in Berkhamsted. So
Yeah,
thank you.
the bit that we keep forgetting where we are.
That's okay. Chloe.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm Chloe. I'm an osteopath and a craniosacral therapist working with the biodynamic field. And so it's another sort of term that comes within bodywork. So yeah, I have a practice in Kings Langley and also work from Berkhamsted and I have a space in Islington as well, where I support a teaching clinic there. But essentially, my modality is body work, and regardless of whether, often people come in with musculoskeletal strains or acute injuries, chronic problems that have come up, through inherited genetic conditions and things. So although they might be presenting with physical things, often there is an undercurrent or a context of stress and overwhelm, which from my perspective can have an impact on how the body responds to tissue healing. So yeah, I really felt this particular subject was an area that I was felt I had quite a bit to contribute to. So I'm pleased to be here this evening. Thank you for inviting me to talk about the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and how that helps with our regulation and certainly our healing mechanism, and how we just feel generally. So yeah, I look forward to getting into that a little bit more shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Gary, over to you. Oh, you're still muted, Gary.
Oh, I wasted my talent there. I have to start again. I'm Gary Weiner. I'm based in Old Hemel, and I've been in self-development and healing kind of industry for over 35 years. In 2010, I created my own somatic and embodiment process called Freedo, and it's about finding more freedom in all parts of ourself, and all areas of our life. So imagine having more freedom with your health, your wealth, your relationships, your work. Well, with Freedo, you can. So that's Freedo. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. That's great. So yeah, we're gonna just go a little bit more into the toolkit now. So each of us are gonna just introduce a little bit on how our therapies and modalities can support you during this really intense season. And then each of us will give you a little free, simple practice that you can put in place immediately to support yourself. So Nicola, would you like to go first?
Yeah. So, I liken this time to an emotional magnifying glass. There's a film on Netflix called That Christmas, and there's a beautiful line that says, "This time of year is an emotional magnifying glass." And the narrator goes on to say something like, when we're feeling joyful and everything is beautiful, then that's heightened at this time of year. But actually, if we're experiencing grief, or as Magali says, loneliness, or something in our lives that's going on, we can really feel that in a deeper sense and in a deeper way at Christmas. So grief can really, really come in at this time of year, particularly with it being winter as well. So I speak about grief being the winter of our lives. So if we're grieving, it's kind of like we're grieving in winter as well. There's another layer to it. So it will depend on what you're going through at the moment. It will depend on the type of grief that you might be experiencing at this time of year. But I just wanted to offer one simple thing that relates to bereavement. So what tends to happen is if we've lost someone we love, as I say, there's this emotional magnifying glass. You may see, I lost my mother nearly 20 years ago. And in those initial stages at this time of year, I used to see all the mothers surrounded and all over the place. And so that's that emotional magnifying glass. And sometimes it can feel so painful that we want to turn away from it. We want to just walk away, we want to hide, and we might do that in all sorts of ways. Sometimes the food and the alcohol that Magali talked about. And I just want to plant a little seed for something different. If you have lost someone you love, coming to a practice of acknowledgement. And what I mean by that is grief is very unique for every single person. But one thing that you might want to do is light a candle on Christmas Day for those that are no longer here. And just to turn towards it a little bit. So often what happens in grief, if we try and run away from it, it's kind of still there. It's still here. And so this acknowledgement of lighting a candle, I'll tell you something that I do. I make a lemon meringue pie every Christmas because it's what my mum made. And that's my ritual on Christmas Day, is that I'll have a piece of lemon meringue pie in honor of her, of bringing her into my Christmas Day. And so that's what I want to offer here today, is to find a way to honor and acknowledge your grief, and finding something, whether it's lighting a candle, writing a Christmas card to somebody you love, maybe making the food that they used to make, something that would just bring them in and see how that might support you at Christmas. That's what I wanted to offer today. And I just want to say, if you are grieving, I just send you my love because it's really tough when you're grieving at this time of year.
Oh, thank you, Nicola. That really touched me. That's beautiful. Thank you. I hope this will help a lot of people. I can't remember who was next. Was it was it Sarah, I think?
It's me.
Yes, go for it, Sarah.
Thank you, Nicola. Mine is from my perspective and my modality is much more a sort of strategy and practical. So I sort of probably bring a bit of a level to it. And I think what's important in the lead up to Christmas and leading on from everything that's been said with all the preparation is there is so much pressure. And particularly the teenagers at the moment that I'm supporting are all sitting through mocks at the moment through November, and a lot of them are facing mocks in January, and somehow they're meant to just relax over Christmas and say, well, hey, it's Christmas, and the parents are meant to be relaxing, but actually they're very, very tense and anxious because they've not only got to hold their jobs down, but they've got to make sure the revision's happening and Christmas is happening. And I think where my support is across all ages and parents, and I'm doing a lot of GCSEs at the moment, I think it's really important to actually acknowledge that our executive skills are really being challenged at the moment. I mean, really being tightened and really under stress. And the overwhelm can be quite significant. And my tips at this time of year, I wrote an article actually in the local, in your Amersham and Chesham last year on this, is very much about trying to hold on to your structure, whatever that structure looks like. And I don't mean a regime, I don't mean a school timetable. I mean, so for me, my structure, I'll be very personal here, is I have to swim outside every morning. And today I woke up and thought, oh my gosh, Christmas and Boxing Day. I'm going to be completely overwhelmed. I still need to swim outside. So I phoned up Hampton Pool, and yes, it's a good hour and a half's drive, but that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to take my child because I know it's going to make or break how the rest of the Christmas goes. And whatever it is you need, I work very much around evening routines and morning routines. But once you've become very acutely aware of your needs, keep those going throughout the Christmas period, but not just the festive period, the lead up to it, where there's revision, there's still school timetables, we're still working up until the last minute, or there's financial pressures. And where you've got tasks, in the same way as I work with students with homework, chunk the tasks down into small bite-sized amounts and just really hyper-focus in an ADHD way on what's in front of you and then do what's next. What I'm presented with every day with clients is just complete overwhelm and not knowing where to start first. And my first question is just what's the priority? Let's focus on that. Then what's next? So it's about really still holding on to some kind of structure. We can loosen it, obviously, we're not at work and we're not at school, but whatever motivates us in the morning, and then chunking it down and having some loose structure around the festivities so that we know what's happening, the children know what's happening, there's predictability. Otherwise, Christmas can become meltdowns of kids, arguments of parents, or adults if they're not parents, and it can become extremely stressful. And as we heard in the introduction, that kind of gap between we're meant to romanticize and have this ideal sparkly Christmas and actually it becoming meltdowns and arguments actually exasperates all of it because it puts a huge guilt and pressure on all of it. And I think I very much believe that we still need to bring a lighter touch of some kind of structure with motivation and morning routine, making sure we've got our sleep, and having strategies and a toolkit in place for emotional regulation, whatever that is to you. So whether it's going outside and walking, whether it's turning to read a book, sticking your headphones on for music, and not being overwhelmed by the amount of people and socializing and the noise and all of the kerfuffle that goes with that, doing what you need to have that space. I suppose what I'm trying to say is to normalize Christmas as much as you can. That's my piece to you of advice from my kind of place as an education ADHD coach.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was
You're
well
welcome.
said. Chloe, my darling.
Thank you, Sarah. Um, yeah, I feel that really sort of sets the scene, doesn't it, of how that overwhelm can um, come in at this time of year. And I think from my perspective, what I find in the practice, there's different things that come up at different times of year, and there's very much a kind of seasonal presentation. And this time of year, a little bit like Nicola was saying, with the wintering, often symptoms, whether that's pain or restriction, as things that show up in the body, become more acute when there is a heightened level of stress and demand. So even if you haven't necessarily had sort of fallen on that elbow or added an extra load to it, it does feel like the body becomes more sensitive. There is a heightened sensitivity, and so that's often a kind of starting point. Although we might be looking at the musculoskeletal area, we're also looking at what's happening in the body generally, particularly from my perspective around the nervous system, and then including that in an acknowledgement of how that's sitting in the season and the time of year that we're in as well. So the way that sometimes plays out in the treatment space and the work that I offer is really creating a space for the body to drop down in the nervous system, to find some balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous system is fantastic when there is acute stress. We need to run for the bus. You've got a work, project that needs finishing. We're so lucky to have that sympathetic drive when we need it. What tends to happen, however, is that can get a little bit stuck in the overdrive. And then the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we have our rest and our digest, but also is where we are able to find the healing aspects for our body, tends to get overridden. And so we can be riding at a very high level of sympathetic tone, and that parasympathetic tone doesn't get much of a look in. So through the treatments that I offer in the one-to-one space, I'm often looking at bringing some balance around the nervous system. Sometimes that's through the vagal nerve, or it's through the nervous system more generally. And then what I also like to do is to offer people little exercises to take home with them. And so that's what I thought I might bring tonight. So these are things that can be done at home when things are, particularly heightened. You can't necessarily get out for that nurturing walk in the woods, or if Sarah hasn't, she's had her morning run or swim in the outdoor pool, but she still needs to, something particularly sort of stirs up the day. So I think, as you were saying, Sarah, having something to go to, whether that's reading a book or putting music on, this is one of those little hacks. So what I'm going to invite you to do, in fact, I've asked Nicola very kindly to help me with this, to demonstrate, is to come to a standing up position. So if you were happy to take a standing up position, Nicola, I'd appreciate that. And in the first instance, it's just about getting some movement through your body. Okay, so this is going to be short and sharp. And I'm going to come down a little bit because otherwise you can't see me particularly. But really just get a little bit of rocking motion, and to get your arms swinging. So you're inviting a bit of a sway. And first of all, you want to be aiming those arms around the back of your body, maybe finding a pat on the kidneys, the adrenals, and just giving yourself a bit of a swaying motion. Allow your head to turn with that so that you're looking behind yourself as well. And you might bring the arms up and over your shoulder, patting yourself on the back for all the things that have gone well. And this is a nice way to just kind of reset what's happening in your body. If things are getting a bit overstimulated, it allows things to settle. You might find that your breath actually goes up a little bit, but then when you come to the standing position at the end, you can just find that centering again, and everything should start to settle. And then one other little hack I thought might be nice to bring into this is that when you've had that bit of movement, you might add a shake to that, get your arms shaking. When you then come back into a seated position, this is a nice one for helping with the vagal nerve particularly, but also just for your nervous system generally to feel safe and calm. For this one, I want you first of all just to look up towards the ceiling. And when you've got a soft gaze up towards the ceiling, take a deep breath in and breathing all the way out. You might choose to do that with a sigh, and then bring your head back down, looking back towards the floor. So you've done a neck extension and then a neck flexion. You might round that a little bit through the top of the back. And then you might do that one more time up towards the ceiling. Breath in, breathe out, bring the head back down towards the floor. I'm doing this a little bit faster than I would usually recommend just because we're in this situation. But I would add to that a look over your shoulder, whether you start left or right, it doesn't matter. Getting the rotation through the neck, but also not just the movement. You need to be aware of noticing what is happening in the room. So you're really checking out the space around you, and your body knows that you are safe. You know where you are. There's nothing happening else. There's just a sense of safety that your nervous system starts to notice and be aware of. So moving the neck is helpful for the nerves themselves, but actually the acknowledgement, the mindfulness part of that is really useful as well. So I hope that helps to bring a sense of calm in the moments of madness. And yeah, look forward to seeing you all along the way.
Thank you, Chloe. I was having a visual of a dinner Christmas party with loads of bread.
Anytime, you're in charge. You can always take 5 minutes out. That's all it takes.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Gary?
Yeah, I'm here. So I'll give you a little Frito ritual you can try during Christmas, and you can practice this if you like as well. It's very beautiful. I've chosen one of the Frito cards today, and that's called Soul. And with this card, it's very much about connection and support. So I feel like when we've got support, when we feel supported, we feel comfortable. It's like a baby. Our nervous system relaxes and we just feel comfortable. So I'm going to take you through a little exercise. So if you want to close your eyes, I'll invite you to close your eyes and just take a few breaths. It's always important to close your eyes because you can then go into yourself and feel what's happening without being distracted with the outside world. So just take a few breaths and just take a moment to come into your beautiful bodies and your beautiful selves. And now I want you to imagine that you're in a room, a white room, pure white. It's just white, nothing else, like a white light. And you're just sitting on a chair, comfortable chair in that room. And then there's a little knock on the door. So you say, come in. And notice who's coming in for you. Somebody you have love for, maybe someone that's here in this life or not here. Maybe it's your grandmother or grandfather or great grandmother. Somebody maybe you've missed and you feel like you'd like reconnect with them again. And you can just see that person entering the room and you invite them in and they come and sit next to you. Just imagine that person sitting next to you right now. And you look at each other. And you take each other's hands. Maybe there's something you want to ask or share with that person. So imagine you sharing right now in your mind what you'd like to share with them, what you'd like to say to them. Noticing how you feel as you're talking, how they respond, how they hold you. And now it's their turn. So you can easily imagine them sharing something with you. What can you imagine them saying to you as they look into your eyes? You're holding hands. Maybe they give you a little bit of advice, or maybe they just say something sweet and kind to you. Just notice how that feels in your body. And just check in if there's anything else either of you want to share to one another. When you're ready, maybe you'd like to have an embrace with them. You can just bring each other near, have a nice hug, just feel each other. And always remembering that whenever you want to reconnect together, you can always invite them into this same space whenever you want. So when you're ready, you can release each other. And as you watch this person slowly walk back to the door that they came from, as they close the door, they just gently glance back. You catch each other's eye, knowing that you'll see each other again soon. So just take a couple of more breaths. Again, observing how your body feels, how you feel, having that connection. And just remember, you can always do this ritual over and over again, inviting the same person or different people into your space to reconnect with them. So I hope you enjoyed that. And just keep in mind, if you'd like a free session with me anytime, just reach out through December. Just reach out to me for a free session and I'll guide you through one of the 75 processes in Frido. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And we'll make sure to put a link as well for that with the webinar recording so people can find you for that free session. Great. So this is now my turn, but before I start with my my little medical herbalist bit, just wanted to say that if anybody who is here listening to this have any questions or want to share any of their own struggle through this Christmas period, just feel free at any time to pop it in the chat box. And if we have a couple of minutes, we could have a little discussion and see if we have any further tools or any questions that you might have, we can try to answer them. Okay, so my work as medical herbalist and inner work trauma therapist is very much grounded around it's working with herbs, but it's also working with the emotional field of how we are connecting with our body and our emotion. And actually, it's really about how we are listening to our body. So for me, our body is actually not broken. It's not diseased. It's just talking, it's just saying, hey, I need this, or you're not able to connect with that. And it's just pushing all these little doors and it's different for everyone. So rather than being fearful of it, it's more about going in and welcoming what our body has to say to us. And when it comes to Christmas, I find it's a very interesting period. I mean, myself, I have a very mixed feeling about Christmas because, if anything, I find Christmas extremely disassociating. So it's disconnecting from our body. It's extremely conflicting. We want to have fun. We want to meet all our loved one. We're very excited, but at the same time, it can be really stressful. And personally, I remember from my own childhood, kind of loving Christmas, but at the same time hating it because I guess it's a little bit of that absorbing my own parents' stress, and they're wanting to either host perfectly or travel to the place And therefore, I guess as a child, I probably never quite understood how stressful and the memory of the stresses were held in my body. So before going into the herbs, I think the first thing I'd like to really bring up is that connection back to your body. So at any time at Christmas, just checking in, how am I right now? How am I feeling? You know, do I need to eat that food? Do I really want that food? Or is this my little child indulging and gorging? You know, because I find that myself, you know, for many years, I actually would be eating four times than I needed, and I would feel really awful afterwards. And I could not understand, but that was really this kind of memory in my cells. And actually, last year, it was one of the very first Christmas that I can say I didn't even have any sugar. I had nothing. It was just a very simple roast. And yet, at the end of the meal, I saw my belly bloating, and that was just pure memory, you know. It's Christmas Day, you got to bloat. So, talking to my belly, hey, belly, you're having another memory of those years, you know, those years of tension. It's just a memory. It's not necessarily what's right now, or even asking, what's going on there? What do you need, belly? And it might sound really trivial or weird to do that, but actually your body responds, you know? And my bloating basically disappeared in a space of minutes. The moment I invited that in and responded, it was like a reconnection. So I really love to invite that because it's so simple and you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your own head. It doesn't have to be spoken out. Next part, obviously, herbs can be incredibly helpful, especially with bloating, especially with heartburns, especially with indigestion. And I had made that tincture for myself called Christmas Digest. But I'm gonna give you the recipe as a tea because not everybody's got access to tinctures. So the number one, the plant number one that most of you will have in your kitchen is fennel seed. So fennel seed is amazing. It's carminative herbs and it helps expel gas in every direction. So maybe do it after the meals once everyone's left. However, the way to do it is to at least, I would say, go for a good tablespoon, you know, boil it with a lid on. So you want to keep all the lovely essential oil in the pot and do boil it for a good 10 minutes. With that, you can also add other herbs. If you have chamomile, that's a really lovely one because it's antispasmodic. It calms the nervous system down. And the other one is marshmallow, and that can be not the sweet, the plant, marshmallow root or marshmallow leaf. And you still have time to get hold of that. You know, lots of herbal shop will have it. And that's really soothing for your gut lining. It helps with heartburn around this time of year. So if anything, you can at least go to fennel seed. And then the last one, which is probably harder to get hold of, I normally use it as a tincture, is yellow dock root. But it's really good for Christmas because you just need a tiny bit. You might be able to find it as a dried root actually in some of the herbalist shops as well. It supports the breaking down of fat. So if at that time of year you're having a little bit more rich food, it really helps your digestive system process these fats because that's sometimes what can you know, make your digestion a bit more sluggish and, you know, especially if you're not used to having as much fat. So that's the little kind of herbal recipe that is fairly safe to use at any time. And actually, it's useful for any heavy meals. But Christmas time, for me, it's my number one. And I sometimes have it, even though I'm not going to indulge, just to help those cell memories that are going to kind of react without the food. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, I think now is the time because we could yeah, we could answer anything. Or otherwise, I can kind of use, we had something in our previous kind of template, I think. Anybody wants to put something in a chat box? Now is the time. Or you can even unmute yourself. I'll just give it 2 sec. Okay. So otherwise, no questions. Okay, thank you. That's lovely. Yeah. So there was one question that I had there was about I have a relative that often triggers me. How do I deal with that? Because I think it's a bit of a tricky question, and that can happen a lot around Christmas time, can't it? When you're going to have to meet that relative, that's a bit difficult. So I don't know if any of you, Nicola, Chloe, Sarah, or Gary, sorry, this is all a bit unprepared. How do you deal with somebody that triggers you at the Christmas table?
Apart from ignoring them or being rude to them, actually, there's a really good technique. It's a bit cathartic, but you could just go into your mind and imagine how you want to react to them. So whether you want to scream at them or whatever you want to do, that's really powerful, actually. It's like no one knows what you're doing or what you're thinking, but it's really relieving. It really can take that kind of stress out because when you can't act it out, it's so much pressure and it's just horrible. Just imagine screaming at them or chucking a bowl of water over them or something. It's very good.
Thank you, Gary. Chloe, you had your hands up, or your hand
I
one.
I think the preparedness beforehand is helpful in a situation like that. So creating an environment and a space that if you're able to speak to other people who are going to be around to say, look, this is going to be a tricky situation for me, and I'd appreciate your support with. Maybe I'm going to choose not to sit next to them. We might need to just manage to just get help from the people who you can rely on, because that collaborative aspect gives you another space to lean into. You've got someone else to glance at when you're finding it hard, and that can help with that kind of regulation of yourself if you can see that somebody else is just noticing that you need that extra bit of support. So bringing other people in, I think, is helpful.
Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, I think kind of the opposite of what Gary was saying, you going into yourself. I'm kind of saying actually step away. So step away. The toilet's always a good place because it's got a lock. And that's the place where in coaching I talk about boundaries. And I always, whether I'm standing in front of a child or saying to an adult, I imagine there's a pebble being dropped in a puddle and it's rippling. And we've got our boundaries in place. And people only upset and hurt us when we have lots and lots of holes in our boundaries and we're allowing it all to come in. But we need our boundaries in place that actually we can hear it or be humoured by them. And we can see it more as a pantomime, literally, at Christmas of whatever's going on and whatever we're hearing. But we're not allowing those people. We don't give them precedence and we don't give them the privilege to actually come in and hurt us in whatever way they're hurting us. And sometimes I think, well, actually, most of the time, we need to step away to put our boundaries in place. We need to prepare. As you were saying earlier, we need to prepare before we go in, but that doesn't mean we're not necessarily caught off guard or something's said or there's a look. And at that point, we need to step away, put our boundaries in place and come back and be in a place where we can hold our own, we can have the conversations, but we're not letting certain things come in emotionally, verbally, whatever it is. And that would be my advice. And that's what I do a lot in my coaching.
Thank you, Sarah. Nicola, you had something to say. I think we need to wrap up soon, so I'll
Yeah,
just give
I
you
just
that.
I love this topic. So I know we're all speaking, but I just really wanted to come in. I'm thinking about what Ram Dass says. Ram Dass is a spiritual teacher, and he says something like, no matter how enlightened you are, just kind of spend a day with your family, and then like, these things do come up. And I think what I'd offer is just a little bit of our humanity. Like, it's not wrong to be triggered. We are human. We will be activated and we will be triggered. So that kind of real kindness and compassion towards ourselves when we're kind of experiencing that can kind of just sometimes soften. It's just like, I'm okay, like it's all right, like just a little bit of kindness towards ourselves, a loving hug.
Thank you so much, Nicola. So I think we're all coming to an end Oh, that's been really lovely to have you all. So firstly, a huge thank you to Nicola, Chloe, Gary, and Sarah for sharing all your wisdom. It's been really beautiful. And thank you for all of you who have been listening or are listening to this recording. And I think just one word is remember that the goal isn't a perfect Christmas. Yeah, it's just a peaceful you. So you can pick one tool or a few more from tonight, and then just, yeah, give yourself permission to use them as much as you need. So your support system doesn't end here. We have a whole team of other specialists at Seed Wellness who can support you. And we've got other practitioners such as acupuncture, we have sound therapy, we have breath work, functional medicine, nutrition, homeopathy. I can't even list them all. So just go on the website and have a look. We're all on seedwellness.co.uk. You can also follow us on Instagram, which is Seed Wellness UK, and there will be loads of daily tips there and updates. And we've also just started a Facebook group, especially as well for the Berkhamsted and Amersham. I'll put all of these links in with the recording and the email. I think the Facebook group is called Seed Wellness, Berkhamsted, Amersham, and Chesham. And yeah, we will be sending a follow-up email with a recording. And if you have any questions, just feel free to just reply to the email, or if you see the webinar posted somewhere, just put some comments and questions. Okay, so for now, from all of us at Seed Wellness, we all wish you a really happy season with more moments of true connection and calm.
Thank you. Thank you for running it.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.